What's going on, everybody? My name is Box from Box and Jackalope, and I'm very excited. It's been 4 months since our last Kun-Lai Campfire, but we're back today, and we're going to be talking about Shadows Rising. But before we do that, Skull Shorties, Jakai, welcome back, my friends.
Hey, hey.
It's your boy Skull Shorties again. Box took way too damn long.
I'm sorry, Bannerak.
We were supposed to do this when the book was announced, and Box
Now it's
got sick like a lot of times, and yay, that was fun.
It's like a SpongeBob, 5 months later moment. But to start this one off, I would like to read the excerpt, because it'll kind of lead into everything we're going to talk about and what the book is about. So, without further ado, I gotta get my Sylvanas voice ready. The Horde is nothing! With those infamous words, Sylvanas Windrunner betrayed and abandoned the Horde she vowed to serve. The Dark Lady and her forces now work in the shadows, as both the Alliance and Horde, including her own sister Illyria, race to uncover her next move. Struggling to shoulder the crushing weight of leadership, King Anduin entrusts the Void Elf and High Exarch Terralion to uncover Sylvanas' whereabouts. The Horde now stands at a crossroads. The various factions form a council, hell yeah, leaving the mantle of War Chief to rest. Thrall, Lorthamar, Theron, Bane, Bloodhoof, First Arcanist Thalyssra, and many other familiar faces rise to this new challenge, but the threats are numerous, and the distrust runs too deep. When the council is derailed by a failed assassination attempt on Queen Talanji, the Zandalari queen and key ally, Thrall and the rest of the Horde leaders are forced into action. They empower the young troll Shaman Zakan, still grieving the loss of Varrock Sarfang, with a critical mission to aid Talanji and help uncover the rising threat against her. Meanwhile, Nathanos Blightcaller, Skull's favorite character, and Sierra Moonwarden have been tasked by the Dark Lady with a terrifying gambit to kill the troll Loa of Death himself, Bwan Samdi. As Zakan and Talanji work to save Bwan Samdi, their journey will be a key turning point in bolstering the Horde against the coming darkness and finding themselves along the way. Failure to save their allies and the trickster god will surely doom them, but through success, they may rediscover what makes the Horde strong. And this is written by Madeline Rocks, I think her name is. So it's actually it's always really exciting to me to actually have new authors sometimes writing the World of Warcraft books. And she, from what I've seen, she seems really passionate about the game in general, and I'm really excited to read the book. It's gonna be awesome.
She made a few jokes on Twitter that some people got angry about. I laughed at, but some people get angry over the smallest little things nowadays. Sadly.
I actually didn't hear about that.
I actually never heard about that either.
So long ago. It was like when she got announced to be writing the book, and then she made some jokes about what characters are doing in said book, like in a joking manner.
Oh.
I forgot completely what she said in it, but it was all jokes. It was all supposed to be funny, and some people took it seriously. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what will come out of that book and this new writer. I mean, I really enjoy Christy Golden's work. I really liked Ilden's book.
I love that book.
That was a really good one.
So good.
But I'm pretty excited to see where this will come out. It's a very interesting bridge between Shadowlands and BFA.
I'm just more so excited about the council thing. I can't even wrap my mind around it. Like, I was so excited. I'd been dropping that idea for so long. I was like, the War Chief thing, I feel is a little dated for the Horde, and it's just so cool to see them go that route.
When we all became friends, I remember that was one of the first things we all talked about actually for a long time. We're like, please go with the council. Please go with the council. Give G Firepaw some storyline. Please go with the council.
It's not even just G now. Now you got Thalyssra and everybody else.
You got everybody.
Awesome.
I'm really hoping... the one thing I noticed that, it can open the doors, as Thrall said, we've got so many new faces in the Horde who are leaders, and, Thrall is very happy about that. And, it opens the doors for other races to join in on the council. Rexar, for the Makithal, or the Ogres. Either or, I'm fine with either, personally.
I'll take either as well at this point.
Yeah,
Same with the Broken Draenei and the Alliance. Let's get them in there, too.
it's so weird because like now it's the Alliance that has like a one-figure leader, like the High King. I understand the High King has to go through a bit of a process to issue an order through the other characters, but like it's you know, it's interesting that the Horde is more democratic than the Alliance, I guess. It's a very nice step in the Horde's direction to, you know, more positive vibes, especially after Sylvanas and Garrosh. I definitely am very happy about that. And plus, we have characters like Gazlo and Rokon as the new leaders of their races. And you got Thrall back in charge of the Orcs, which I am so thankful for. We lost Sarfang, and we really needed someone to take the place of the Orcs leaders immediately after Sarfang was gone, and now we got Thrall again, which I think is great. His
new design is so badass looking too. I hope the Orc heritage armor looks kind of similar to it. Not to get off topic, but Thrall as a character, it was so weird when he was gone. There was that crowd that like really hated him, and then there's the crowd that really liked him. I was on the side that like really liked Thrall, and I really missed him when he was gone. But the reveal, my favorite cutscene in Battle for Azeroth was actually Safe Haven when he returned. So I know we've talked about this, and it isn't really it is technically a Shadowlands video, but I'm hoping he gets some storyline next expansion. I know we've talked about that in other videos on both of our channels, but
he really needs to. I mean, you don't just throw like when they announced Shadowlands, they're like, these are the core characters that you'll get to meet in each realm. They're like Kel'Thas for Ravendreth, Uther for Bastion, Tyrande for Ardenweald. It's Box's favorite character. And then they were like Draka and Maldraxxus. I was like, why Draka? And like they just didn't really explain it all to, like they explained it to a level of degree that kind of makes sense. Like if you're, you know, stubborn when you die, which for Draka it makes total sense. She died trying to protect her baby and failed. You get sent to Maldraxxus to, you know, support the military of Shadowlands to protect it from outside forces, which I assume is the light and, you know, the void, which I'm really hoping that we'll see N'Zoth again in that form. I really hope that the whole reason why he wanted us to kill him was so he could take over the Shadowlands in some capacity. I don't know.
Oh my god, that would be cool.
That's a topic for another day, but Draka being announced to be one of the main characters of Maldraxxus, it's screaming to me that Thrall has to be there to reunite with his mom. And Ben Grandblade, who's a good friend of mine and a lot of people I'm pretty sure here, he prompted the idea of Gaia tagging along with Thrall, and I love that idea because, you know, Thrall and Gaia are technically brother and sister, and that needs to be fleshed out more. I want them as a brother and sister duo in Shadowlands together to go, you know, beat the crap out of Sylvanas initially, and then it turns into, oh hey, our parents are here, and Gyra's like, wait, that's not my parents, those are your parents. Even though technically Durotan did die in her reality, I don't think we're going to see her. Actually, that's really complicated. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that whole AU Shadowlands bullshit.
Me neither.
But
yeah, that begs a question. A lot of people are curious about Garrosh if he went there because he died on AU.
I don't think that's what they're going to do.
No,
I don't
either.
I think that makes things. I think that if you die in the Shadowlands, like I think this is why it's different for Gaia, why she can enter our Shadowlands is because it's our Shadowlands portal that's opened up and she's entering inside it. She's now a part of our reality in that case, and she isn't dead yet. So I don't think that's in the case of... I think that if she does die, she's not going to return to that Shadowlands.
Right.
I think that she's going to go to her own. I think that Garrosh is definitely in our version of the Shadowlands. I think that'll be way too complicated if they go like, oh no, Garrosh is in this sector of the Shadowlands that's meant for AU Draenor. That hurts people's brains, and I don't think they want to do that. But we should probably go back on topic of the book rather than talking about...
Yeah.
Well, one thing, Kai actually earlier started the first topic I wanted to talk about, and that was the council, which we can still talk a little bit more on. But, like, it's funny, like, we have, like, an idea of what the other characters are going to do, but I'm very curious what the many other familiar faces means in terms of storyline? Like, will we get little bits of dialogue from each leader of the Horde? Like, oh my god, even if I just had one line from G Firepaw, I think I would lose it. I would be so happy, even if he just like said to like, "That's a terrible idea, Bane," or something. I don't know.
Did G suddenly become the Bannerack of the group between Box?
I think so. But like the other characters, I hope they at least get like a little bit of storyline throughout the expansion. Not expansion, the novel. I'm sorry. There's like. It is hard because there are so many leaders in the Horde now, and to divvy it up evenly would be tough, but I think even a little bit can go a long way for a lot of fans of their race.
I think that they're going to focus mainly on the characters they announced in that, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. In the book, you can kind of read like a little excerpt from the book. I think there's 2 of them now, which one of them is actually really... I think we should definitely talk about those in this. There's one part that talks about the Alliance point of view, and then another talks about the Horde stuff that's going on. But in the Horde one specifically, it focuses a lot on Thrall, which I think is a great idea. We haven't had the guy in a big role for a while. Honestly, I don't think he's been in a WoW book, since
War Crimes. Yeah, War Crimes, and even then he took a smaller seat. Shattering, he took more of a larger seat, and I think, it again, like you said, there's a divide in the community between either loving Thrall or hating Thrall. There's might be an in-between for some people, but I think that's more rare. Mm-hmm. I personally love Thrall, and I love it whenever they do stuff with him, and it does seem like they're having him play an important role in this book, which is strange, because I know that a lot of us, aside from the council idea, the other idea was, the 2 war chief ideas, which was Bane and Thrall. Those are the 2 biggest candidates, and, Thrall immediately, he turns it down in the endgame cutscene where he's talking to everybody, when Lorthamar, of all people, is like saying, yeah, we should have a war chief again. It's kind of interesting Lorthamar didn't try to candidate himself, but I think that at that point, Lorthamar realized the Horde probably wouldn't take that too well. Thrall seemed to be, both on and off, but Bane was the next person I think they would have turned to be war chief, and it seemed like they were kind of, a lot of people when they saw the Volpera scenario, they were like, was Bane supposed to be war chief, because this doesn't seem right? Why are all the problems going to Bane and not Thrall when Bane's not in charge of Orgrimmar? And I think it was just like the chaos of having a war chief. Bane kind of just took the reins because Thrall was not comfortable with it. Lorthamar, he was probably handling stuff in Silvermoon, and, he had Thalrisrod interacting with Bane to get these problems solved with Vintner or whatever. I really liked the Volpera scenario because it got to show things outside of warfare, of how the Horde handles sorts of businesses like that, but it seemed like they were prepping Bane up in a way to be war chief, but they kind of dialed it back to, nope, we're doing council, and I really liked that, and I had this I see a lot of people asking this question, who's in charge of the council? That breaks the whole purpose of the council. Yeah, I don't think anybody is.
Nobody's in charge of the council. I think that there will be larger voices, obviously. I think Thrall and Bane and Lorthamar will probably be the biggest 3 voices on the council, but Sarfang's whole point was to diminish the war chief title, to diminish all that power that person has. We can't have another Garrosh, we can't have another Sylvanas, who has all the power and the reins to commit war, to commit genocide, to commit all those atrocities, because she has the word. So, I don't think we're gonna have, one big character in charge of the council. In fact, I think that if they do actually have Thrall sent into the Shadowlands, along with Gaia Ra, they might have characters like either Eitrig or Rexar take reins over the orcs while they're away.
That would be kind of cool, actually, to see them deal with like the burdens of leadership too.
Yeah,
for the orcs in their absence.
I know we're trying to stay on topic with the Shadowlands, but Shadows Rising. Bleh, those names are really
no. This is absolutely on topic with it.
But I really hope that they actually go back to Azeroth, kind of like how they did in Burning Crusade, where it wasn't just Outlands. Like, they went back to Quel'Thalas a lot in Burning Crusade. But I would
really nice.
Yeah, I would really like it if they go back to Azeroth at certain points, either near the end of the expansion, like let's say the Jailer gets loose. I think that'd be more interesting, personally. I really want the world of Azeroth to still be involved in Shadowlands. I don't want it just to be like Draenor, where it's just Draenor. That was my biggest issue with Worlds of Draenor, because they just focused on Draenor and the conflicts inside of that bubble, instead of focusing on, okay, what's going back on Azeroth? Because we quelled the Iron Tide, the Iron Horde, almost immediately, and that's another issue I have. I really want the Scourge to be still a threat while we're away. It's why we're going to the Shadowlands in the first place, because we can't stop the Scourge. I really want them to do that.
So one thing, it's funny too, in Warlords they cut the one storyline where Murad takes Yrel to our universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was originally a storyline where Murad takes her to the main universe, and it was leaked, and then they cut it from the final game. Kind of a shame of that.
Warlords of Cutlord, or whatever.
So I want to throw this to Kai. What are your thoughts on the War Council, and what do you think they might do in the book with these characters, besides like getting their shit together for the Horde?
Well, in truth, a bit like with the Pandaren in general, I don't think the leaders will be playing too much of a role in Shadowlands, which I think is kind of sad. It's one of the things I'm very nervous about with both with the book and with well, I guess with the book they're gonna play probably a much greater role, but with the expansion itself, I'm very worried that the actual world is not going to play very much relevance in the plot, which for me personally really made expansions like even BC to some extent, but Warlords of Draenor especially, I didn't feel too connected with, because it doesn't feel like what we're really doing plays a role in the universe we're taking part in. And from a role player's perspective, one of the things I'm very nervous about, and I think was something that was semi-confirmed, is that the average adventurer isn't really going to have a way of getting into the Shadowlands to play a role in that sphere anyway. So, I don't know, like, we haven't seen the alpha, beta, whatever, but...
I mean, what we do know, sorry to cut you off, one thing that we do know is that we will have heroes come with us to the Shadowlands, and I think that's kind of what you could do with your hero, with your role player. I know we've talked about this before, definitely, in a previous podcast, where you could basically tag along with the person who has the Heart of Azeroth, and basically, because I know very well that the Heart of Azeroth is the key to how people maneuver out of the Maw, and that's how we save people later on.
Well, I don't know. It feels a little rigid in that aspect, but I mean, I digress. I'm just really hoping that the actual world plays a great role still in the plot of Shadowlands. Yeah. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be pretty centered on the Shadowlands. But you never know. Because, Battle for Azeroth is supposed to be focused on faction war, and I'd say a good bit of it wasn't. So, you never know. I'd say, like, be delightfully surprised,
Yeah, we only had, I think, really only 8.0 to 8.1.5, I'd say, with the faction war, because even in Nazjatar in 8.2, they basically were like, nope, we're going to work together to face against Ajara. Let's not fight each other, let's focus on this. So the faction war, honestly, like, it really didn't see much focus as compared to Mist of Pandaria, which, again, I will argue, it's not very... I think a lot of people could honestly agree with this, but Mists handled the faction war way better in Mists.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It kind of, like, Mists kind of had, like, a break of, like, focusing on the faction war and not focusing on it. They kind of, like, went back and forth on it. I think Mists wasn't really about the faction war, it was about Pandaria. And then... But it did it really well to the point where it was like, yeah, this is a faction war going on Pandaria. It worked beautifully. And then Battle for Azeroth, it's the focus on I think that what they should have done is they should have focused on the faction war as the B plot, like Mist did, and then the A plot should have been saving Azeroth, because, like, saving Azeroth was, like, the weakest part in BFA, in my opinion, especially with Magni. I think the strongest parts was when Rathian came along, but that was near the end, and unfortunately, I don't think they handled that the best either, sadly. But I digress with that.
So, if you guys are ready to move on to the next topic, because I think we've talked a good bit about the council, and it's actually, we're going to talk about their counterpart, particularly Illyria and Turalyon, which I'm really happy that they're both getting some storyline in this book, because I always found in BFA it was a little odd that, like, they had a lot of lore in 7.3, and then they kind of, after, like, the initial patch, like, I don't really recall Turalyon doing much besides Arathi Highlands, Warfront, and Illyria and the Battle for Lordaeron. It felt like Umbrick did a lot more than her with the Void Elves this expansion. So I'm curious to see where she stands, and especially with the ending of 8.3, where she says the Whispers are getting worse now that Enzoth is dead. I'm really excited for that plotline in this book. But the rest of the Alliance, and I know I got a little ahead of myself with Illyria and Turalyon, Anduin, I'm really curious to see how he's dealing with the stress of what he's dealing with the Night Elves right now, especially with Tyrande. Tyrande was apeshit during that last cutscene, so I'm curious. As much as I dislike Tyrande, she is right and justified to be pissed off at Sylvanas and want to go after her. I understand her anger at the Horde. It's weird, she's almost in that spot where Jaina kind of was at the end of Mists. But I'm curious to see what they do with her, and I'm curious how it's going to stress out Anduin, to be honest, because Anduin's very peace-loving. So, what do you guys think about the Alliance? I might throw this one to Kai first, actually, just to reverse it up a little bit.
Yeah. So, thank you. I think I think Tyrande offers an actual, I would say, refreshing edge to the Alliance, in a sense, that they're not coming off as just the naive, we're going to wait around until the Horde attacks us kind of thing. And now they're finally going to be positioned potentially as, no, I wouldn't say aggressors, but maybe, maybe aggressors, but, you know, aggressors with a cause. And it's not just Tyrande they have to worry about either, it's getting Greymane as well, which I think is really neat. I think the way the Night Elves and the Worgen kind of mesh together with both kind of holding a grudge against the Horde at large, and not just Sylvanas, but mostly Sylvanas, it's kind of interesting. I really hope that they do act on that, and they, I don't want to say kind of make the Alliance do some questionable things, but yeah. And I mean, they don't just have to involve those races. I mean, they could have like freelancers, you know, dwarves, humans, everything else. Just be like, okay, yeah, I'm on board with these guys. You know, you've got guards that are constantly talking on the Alliance about, like, you know, how long is this peace really going to last? It always ends up into war. We should just attack, you know, whenever we're ahead of the game, you know, and keep them down for a change, rather than vice versa, them attacking us when they're trying to get ahead of the game. But that being said, I think that would pose a lot of potential for kind of a little bit of a fracturing among Alliance leadership for a change. Because you've only got really fracturing in Horde leadership lately. But now the Horde seems to be coming together pretty well, now that every race is, for the most part, represented by somebody fairly reasonable and contributes in a way to a different ideal of the Horde. Whereas with the Alliance, you've got Anduin, who's supposed to be solely calling the shots, and all of the people representing their respective races within the Alliance aren't exactly on board with the one direction he's wanting to take them, which they probably feel is naive, or frankly, like, I don't want to say dishonorable, but it's not enough to sate the people that have been wronged by Sylvanas' Horde, or in some eyes the Horde at large. But that's my opinion.
I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. I actually didn't know about the guards in Stormwind asking for revenge. Just be like, how long is this gonna last? That's interesting. But I will throw this one out to Burrito Shorties as well.
Which in French is Skull Shorties, clearly. So, I'll first start out with Turalyon and Illyria. I've said this in my video before, by the way. I didn't even get to advertise that, but, you know, I made a whole video about talking about Shadows Rising a while ago. But anyway, in that same video, and I actually don't think that they announced this when I was talking about it. I could have talked about it, I don't remember, it was so long ago that I worked on the video. But, so Illyria and Turalyon, they're being tasked by Anduin to go hunt down Sylvanas. And as Box said, we haven't really had them do anything since Legion. I was honestly surprised that BFA, they really didn't have Turalyon lead the Alliance's forces, kind of like how he did in the Second War. Which is interesting because Anduin actually finally makes Turalyon the same rank he was, essentially, back during those times. He finally, you know, gives that rank back to him while he hunts down Sylvanas, which, again, I really hope that the Turalyon and Illyria, Thrall, Gyara, characters that we're well aware of do join us in the Shadowlands to kind of promote these new positions that they have. I think that a lot of interest that I have with Shadowlands is the characters who get to interact with the dead again. You have Turalyon, who could interact with his mentor, Lothar, or his fellow Brothers of the Light, like Tyrion, Uther, and the other guy, I always forget his name, Sarad something. He's the one Scarlet Crusade leader that died, and was possessed by Balnazar at one point. I never remember his name, but those guys. But yeah, so Turalyon is made the new grand leader of the Alliance while he hunts down Sylvanas. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. I think Illyria is going to have some conflicting feelings about hunting down her sister. I know that she was like, I should have killed you when I had the chance, but when you have the moment to kill someone, and they're your relative, when they're your sibling, when they're your sister, and, you know, Sylvanas has fallen so hard, compared to anyone. I don't know still if Illyria will be able to do it, because even Sylvanas, when she had the chance to pull the trigger on both her sisters and convert them into the undead, she didn't. And I think that's really telling, that, you know, those characters can, you know, do that, basically. You know, they can go from, like, I'm going to kill you, to instead, no, I can't do this. They're my sibling. They're my sister. Which I really hope that kind of becomes important in the story. Like, Illyria, she has the chance to stop Sylvanas from killing Bwonsamdi, and she doesn't do it. And either Sylvanas gets away, or she does the dirty deed. I honestly think that, you know, we're gonna get to this eventually, but I do think that, if anyone's going to kill Bwonsamdi, it's not going to be Syrah or Thanos, it's going to be Sylvanas herself, because Turalyon and Illyria, they're not tasked to hunt down those two, they're tasked to hunt down Sylvanas. So I do wonder if those stories will all bridge together somehow. That's what I think will happen. But it's very interesting that they chose those two characters out of all of the Alliance to hunt down those two. Obviously, you know, it'd make more sense, like, okay, Anduin, you're gonna task Tyrande to do it. No, Tyrande is not in an emotional state to hunt down anyone, especially Sylvanas, because she's so fueled by this anger, this hatred, for her, for Todosil, and she has every right to hate the Horde and every right to hate Sylvanas. I think Sylvanas is more the obvious, you know, stem of her hatred. But, and I don't think that all of the Horde deserves it, and it doesn't seem like she kind of views the Horde as all of that, although she does have doubts that the peace will last, kind of like the guards, like Kai said. But yeah, she clearly, you know, he could have chosen Tyrande, he could have chosen Maiev, which that would have been hilarious. You know, Maev's you know, she hunts down everybody. Yeah. I kind of, actually, low-key kind of wish that he tasked Maiev, Tyrande, Maiev, Turalyon, and Illyria, but oh well. But with the whole thing with Tyrande, that's obviously going to be focused on a little bit in Ardenweald. but I don't think Tyranda's going to have a role in the book, sadly. I think that she might get a cameo at some point, like maybe she'll be like, Sylvanas' head belongs to me when she's talking to Illyria or something. Maybe, I don't know. But I really think it's interesting with the way things are going with the Alliance compared to the Horde, because in the Horde, you got all these peaceful people who are, they're for peace, they don't want war anymore, they want to heal. Meanwhile, the Alliance, they're starting to become the bitter ones, they're starting to become the ones that might cause some issues, and I think the Alliance is in great need of becoming more interesting, because I am so bored of them being the perfect peacekeepers.
That was a huge missed opportunity in BFA for the Alliance, to be honest.
BFA should have started with the Alliance starting the war, either orchestrated by Gen, orchestrated by Turallion and, Illyria. Again, Turallion and Illyria, they don't really like the Horde that much. They have every reason to not really like them, because they're war veterans from the Second War. There's not a lot of them left from the Second War that are still alive. Really the First War, I should say, not even the Second War. They're from the First War. And Khadgar became, chill. He became really relaxed with the Horde because, he got to meet someone like Garona. But it's very interesting that you're gonna get basically a flip card of the Horde being the guys that are not causing anything, and the Alliance might cause something. I really hope that's kind of what happens. I've noticed we're talking more and more about the expansion, less about the book, but...
Well, it all kind of ties into each other,
too. It does tie together. I'm really happy that this is like a bridge between the two, because Battle for Azeroth is in desperate need of a good ending that ties it into Shadowlands, and I think this is like one of the best ways to go about it, by tying in Bwonsamdi and all these characters like Illyria, Zakan, and Talanji, etc.
So the nicest part about this book, in my opinion, is the perspective of the storylines being told. You get storylines for people that are a fan of that more honorable Horde with the Council. You get the Sylvanas loyalist storyline in the terms of Nathanos and Syrah, and possibly, I imagine, Sylvanas will be there in some way, shape, or form. You get some general Horde storyline with the continuation of how Zakan's dealing with the loss of Sarfang, with Talanji if she's pissed off at the Alliance. Talanji we're going to talk about in just a second, because I think we covered enough of the Alliance. But there's just a little bit of storyline here for everyone, it feels like. Alliance player base, he'll get a good bit, and that's something I really, really like. This truly feels like the bridge to Shadowlands and the epilogue to Battle for Azeroth, which is nice, because I liked Visions of Enzoth, but it felt too disconnected from, like, BFA's core storyline, in my opinion. And it doesn't mean it wasn't, like, a fun, cool patch, besides the ending. But the thing I'd like to get to next, I believe I said Talanji and Zakan next. So the big plot line of this storyline is that Sylvanas is trying to kill Bwonsamdi, and at the beginning of the story, an assassin, I believe it's a Zandalari assassin, that tries to kill Talanji during the council meeting, which is super interesting. Like, do you think there's like a group of Zandalari that are pissed at her because Bwonsamdi's her Loa, or do you think it's because she joined the Horde and they're mad about the faction war ending? Talanji, in my opinion, is in one of the hardest spots of any Horde leader right now with everything that happened. She joins the Horde for vengeance, and the Horde makes a peace treaty and a ceasefire with the Alliance. Her people, I imagine, are not too happy about that choice. And I can kind of understand why in that little excerpt at the beginning she was upset.
I was just going to say, I have a small theory about that, very brief. I'll just say, I do wonder if it's going to be posited from the perspective that maybe some of her own people are ticked at her for being okay with being on a council which has to sign an armistice with the Alliance. Maybe they're not down with that. Maybe a lot of them are still really salty about the recent sacking of their city and the, regicide. Their king was killed. So that's just to keep my thoughts brief there on Talanji. I do wonder if that's how they're going to paint the justification for one of their own trying to kill her, which I think is cool, actually. I think it's very interesting. That rather than just going with the cliche Forsaken assassin, like breaking in, trying to do it, like it's one of her own. So there's got to be some incentive there.
It's just like they're like, oh man, everything's all good with the Alliance, guys. We're all good here. We're, the peace treaty is great. I'm pretty sure the Zandalari, for the most part, the people have to be very divided after that incident. I mean,
all right. I know that you and I actually talked about Talanji and Rastakhan and Bwansamdi and all that a while ago in a podcast, actually. Also Vol'jin, of course. But, God, where was I gonna go with this? There's a lot of stress on her now as leader, and I remember in the scenario, you already had people trying to kill her, and I feel like that's actually coming back, basically. You had, like, an entire sect group led by who I think was a worshipper of the Spider Loa. God, what's her name? I'm not good with everybody's names.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Shadra?
Shadra, that's Shadra. It. Yep.
Yes. There we go. Figure it out. But you had that person trying to kill Talanji. You had a lot of people insulting her for basically kissing the feet of Bwansamdi. A lot of people aren't too happy with Bwansamdi. He's the Loa of Death. He's the guy who basically takes you when your time has come. Obviously, you're not too thrilled about that. You're not too thrilled about dying, and you have basically the guy behind that who, takes you away from your loved ones. He's basically the Reaper of Death, basically. He's, and you have someone that you regard as your leader, as your royalty, now in charge of that. And not only that, but, Rastakhan kept that, kind of quiet, and, a lot of people could take that the wrong way, oh, immediately when your father's dead, you go ahead and side with, Bwansamdi? How dare you? At the same time, this isn't really talked about too much, but, Bwansamdi left Rastakhan to die. And not a lot of people talk about that, and it's, I know a lot of people like Bwansamdi, and, a lot of people are like, oh, he's, a neutral force. I mean, I honestly think that that's, one of the tickets for Talanji to get out of it. I don't actually think she wants to remain with Bwansamdi. A lot of people argue, no, she'll totally, respect that whole bargain between her father and, Bwansamdi. But I don't think she wants to, and I think she definitely wants to get out of it. It's very interesting that they are actually having her people and, permission along with Zakan, of all things. And I talked about this a little bit, but, Zakan, he feels very uncomfortable and uneased because he's not a hero of the Horde. He's just, the simple guy. He's the simple NPC who tagged along with Sarfang. He's no one special. He's no one big. He's not even really that well regarded as a shaman. The battle for Lordran was his first battle, for crying out loud. And the book is called Shadows Rising, and he regards himself as the shadow of the Horde. He's a nobody. He was in the shadow of Sarfang. He was in the shadow of Thrall now. And he just doesn't feel himself as really that special of a dude. And I still think Zakan has the potential to become someone great. He can become the new Rokhan, where he's the champion of his faction. He can become the High Overlord someday. I don't think he should become that immediately. I like the idea of him progressively becoming a better character, a better champion of the Horde in that case. But I definitely think the book has that meaning for not just Khan, but also Talanji. Talanji is very much the shadow of her father. A lot of people don't respect her. A lot of people don't think that she can do it. She's very much in a similar situation that Anduin was during Legion, when Anduin's father died. Rastakhan was a leader for 200 years. He was well regarded in the troll community, and he's gone now, and a lot of blame, a lot of hatred, a lot of eyes are now all over Talanji, and that hatred we've put on her. And I do not think that Sylvanas will not take that as an opportunity, as a way to get rid of her. I honestly think a lot of people have theorized this. Talanji is the way to get to Bwansamdi. because for some reason Bwansamdi really likes Talanji, and there has to be a case for that. There has to be a reason for that, in the same way that Vol'jin was a fan favorite of him. Like, he really liked Vol'jin. And there could be because of anima, it could be because of their spiritual connection, because, like, Talanji was able to reach out to Vol'jin no issue, while Bwansamdi's having complete problems with trying to talk to Vol'jin, and Vol'jin's definitely going to be a big character in Shadowlands. He has to be. Why build him up so much as this...
Oh my gosh, I would be so triggered if he wasn't.
grandiose character who can potentially... I still think he's going to replace Razan, personally, but he could be something more. I mean, a lot of people think that he's the chosen of the Arbiter now, because the Arbiter's having all these problems with the Ma. Some people are even, like, wondering how the hell Bwansamdi... got all those souls during Battle for Azeroth when Sylvanas broke the Machine of Death, so there could be something going on between Bwansamdi and the Jailer, or someone that is, you know, an enemy of the Jailer. I don't know, but there's so much circulating on Bwansamdi, and Sylvanas wants him gone. I'm not surprised by that, because Sylvanas, back during Legion, she, was dealing with Helia. She was probably going to oppose Odin at some point to take his Valkyr, because she wanted to take a Yer, who was basically the main Valkyr, the Queen Valkyr. So, and like, we already know that Sylvanas takes down the Lich King, so as far as I'm concerned, the One Vol'jin questline pointed out all the people who are rivals of Sylvanas in that questline. You have Bwansamdi, you have the Lich King, and you have a Yer, and all three Sylvanas has targeted or is now targeting, and that's really important, because I think she wants them gone. They're a threat to her power. They're a threat to the Jailer, probably.
So that actually leads into, like, the next thing I wanted to talk about was Nathanos and Sierra, and basically what Sylvanas is asking them to do. Do you guys think they're actually going to kill off Bwansamdi in this book? Because one thing about that, and I mean, I wouldn't be too upset about it, but I think it might be the cheapest way to get Talanji out of the pact her father made with Bwansamdi. I think that would be a nice storyline to see play out in the expansion rather than in the novel, but I'm curious what you guys think about that.
You want to go, Jakai, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, in truth, I don't have too much to say there. I do think, I don't think they'll kill him off, but I don't know, like, you make a great point there, with that it kind of does just give them a way to, like, release Talanji from that debt, if that makes any sense. But I think it's more likely that they'll find a way that maybe in saving Bwansamdi, Talanji will have made that debt. Maybe that'll be her sort of leverage in that sense. She'll be like, I saved you, so you're releasing me from this debt or whatever, or maybe he'll be less powerful. They might find some kind of way to release her from that, in that regard. But I do think he's a bit too... I'll just be honest. He's just too fun and awesome a character, like too funny, too recognizable to just to kill. He's so fun. Favorite. Yeah, so
like
he's yeah.
Yeah, he a lot of people really liked him in BFA.
He was one of the best parts, honestly.
A lot of people liked him. I know Beliar talked about how much he liked the character. He's a very gray character. He's not like Sylvanas, where, like, even Bwansamdi says that he cares about the balance, which I think is a really cool hint about his character. It's probably why Sylvanas wants him gone. Oh, this guy actually cares about the balance between life and death. I need that guy gone, because I don't care about that. The Lich King cares about that. That's how far Sylvanas has gone. She's worse than Bwansamdi. She's worse than the Lich King.
I don't know why that sentence made me laugh. The Lich King cares about that. This is how far Sylvanas has gone.
Yeah. But in the case of if they'll kill him, it's very iffy. I would not throw it out of the possibility, because I've said this in the same video that I've been advertising in this one. In my video, I talked about how they killed Karen off in a book. And Karen was a huge character. He was not some little bitty minor character. He wasn't some clash trainer. He wasn't some character in the background. He was the leader of the Tauren. And they killed him off in a book. and a lot of people didn't even know about that. People were really caught off guard in Cataclysm when Bane was the new leader. Like, where's Karen? It was immediately, like, stated when you played a Tauren, like, what happened, but if you didn't play a Tauren, you were caught out of the loop. Even in the pre-event, they had Karen actually doing something. I think he fought Therazane in those weird, like, little mini-dungeon portal things. I forget who he actually fought. It might have been the Sulfuron guy, or it might have been Therazane. I don't remember.
I think it might have been Therazane, if I remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah, it was so long ago. But I think that Bwonsamdi can die. I don't want him to. And I honestly think that they shouldn't kill him off, because they focus a lot that basically, by saving Bwonsamdi, they save the pact between the Zandalari and the Horde, which I really hope becomes a thing. I really hope that Talanji is a character that comes along with Thrall and Gaia and all these other characters. I would love that, personally. I want an interaction between Thrall and Talanji a little bit more, because she looked up to Vol'jin, and Thrall and Vol'jin were like brothers, so I really would love to see a friendship between Talanji and Thrall.
More Talanji and Rokon too would be welcome.
That would be great too. I would love those as a team. Thrall, Talanji, and Gaia and Rokon. I'd love that. But I don't think... So here's the thing. I don't think that Thanos and Sira can kill Bwonsamdi. I think they'll struggle. I think they might have a little... Like, they might be the way that Sylvanas can injure him or capture him. But I don't think those two can kill Bwonsamdi personally.
Unless they got powered up by Sylvanas in that same manner she got powered up. That's my concern. Not concerned, but that's what I think could happen.
We already know that Sylvanas can take on Bolvar. God, all these B names, God. We already know that Sylvanas was able to take on, Bolvar in the cinematic, and he was defeated. Not easily, but he was still defeated by her and her jailer shenanigan power-ups from killing all those people in BFA. So with that in mind, Sylvanas can definitely, I think, take down Bwonsamdi. It's all a matter of, will she succeed, or will she, as Sarfang says, keep failing? I think Talanji is the key, and I think that, Zakan and Talanji will find themselves in this journey. I think this book will be a lot about finding yourself and becoming better, because Talanji is very bitter in this book. Like, the way that they word her, she sounds very angry and very feral at any moment. Like, the smallest little thing of, like, someone, fanning her pisses her off when it's not going her way, which is very out of character for her within BFA. She was very nice and very collected, but I actually did notice she was getting more and more upset as things started to go around her, especially when her father died. So I think we're finally seeing that character that we saw little bits and pieces of, that she's losing it. But I think that we have one thing we do know is that Bwonsamdi's realm is a dungeon in Shadowlands, which can mean a lot of things. It means A, he lost power in his realm. So either he's dead, or he's captured, or something else happened. So I think that maybe, kind of like Cordana, maybe we'll get Sira as a dungeon boss, and we'll kill her, and maybe Nathanos, or we'll capture them. I don't know. I would personally prefer kill, but that's me, because I don't like those characters.
Let's get rid of Nathanos. I've had enough of him.
Let's get rid of that guy. Let's Thanos that Nathanos. But I think that at the end of the day, it's definitely possible that he can die. I would not throw it out of the possibility with Karen in mind. So be ready to say goodbye to Bwonsamdi maybe in this book. But at the same time, maybe Talanji and Zakan will kick Sira and Nathanos' butts and save Bwonsamdi. I would love that.
Just imagine the fight between Zakan, Talanji, Illyria, Turalyon, and Nathanos and Sira. That sounds freaking awesome.
I want that so badly, dude.
I love the setup of this book so much. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen.
I honestly think that the book is going to end with them all united against Sylvanas, and she's forced to retreat, and maybe it'll conclude with Illyria. She has the shot to take Sylvanas, but doesn't take it, and Talanji's like, what's wrong with you? That's what I hope the ending is. I really hope it is. But at the same time, I have that feeling in my gut that something shitty's going to happen in that book. We could be underestimating who is not going to die, because they could kill They could kill Zakan off, dude. They could kill him off. I would not be surprised if they did that. I think out of all the characters that are expendable, personally, I think Sira and Thanos are probably Sira's the most likely candidate to die out of everyone in this, who's the main character. But, I think Zakan is likely. I don't think Talanji is. Talanji just got made leader. Turelion would be a surprise. I don't think Illyria. It's when you're talking about who is going to die in a book, it's very difficult. But I think that out of all of them, Sira is the most likely candidate to die in the book. And I think, if anything, I think Bwonsamdi isn't going to die. Maybe it's very difficult to figure out, but at the same time, if Bwonsamdi dies, maybe Vol'jin will take over his reigns as the new Loa of Graves, which, you know, Vol'jin's a pretty chill guy, so maybe that would be a good thing. But it'd be sad, that's all the same, because Bwonsamdi's a great character.
That's kind of where I stand on it. Like, I think, I don't know, you guys covered it pretty well, but my thoughts at TLDR is it could go either way. I'd be a little upset if he did die in the book, but I'm not throwing it out of the picture. And if it's done well, it might not be that bad either, depending. And if it somehow plays into a bigger role in Shadowlands, who knows? That could be the big oh shit factor of the book that leads into the next expansion. So I have one more thing I want to talk about with you guys today, and then we can wrap down because we're at about an hour. And it's a minor thing, but it's about Rokon. Do you guys think he was neglected in this book, or do you think he might see some storyline with the Council? Personally, I think he's going to see some storyline with the Council, and we could see how he's dealing with being the newly crowned leader of the Darkspear at the end of Battle for Azeroth, which I think is a really nice role for him, and honestly, I would say a pretty suitable replacement for Vol'jin at this point. I'll throw that to Kai first, actually.
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll play a role in the hypothetical storyline with Vol'jin. I think that'd be very neat. I'm hoping he's actually playing the operative role there. I will respectfully disagree with the fact that Zakan is both expendable and that he should become like a prominent character. I actually really like that he's not a prominent character and he's still recognizable for that. But I'm only bringing that up because if he's going to be over there, he could be. I think he could have a fun little, I don't know, back and forth with Rokon or even with Vol'jin, just being there, just being present. I think it'd be humorous and at the same time very relatable. But yeah, I do hope Rokon is playing the operative role whenever it comes to Vol'jin. Just to sum up my thoughts there, although I really haven't been speaking much, I know, but I think I just sum up my thoughts and just kind of leave it at that.
Either that or High Warlord Volrath.
Oh my god.
Peace with the Alliance, nevermore.
That guy's gonna get really well with the Zandalari.
They'll be like, you're the new High General of the Zandalari.
Oof. I mean, hey.
Could happen.
I think they actually have the one female lady as that, but yeah.
But Skull, what do you think about Rokon? And then we can wrap this one down.
So, in the case of Rokon, I honestly wish that it was him instead of Zakan in this book, taking up this role. At the same time, I get why they chose Zakan, and I like Zakan, and I don't think that he's fully expendable, as I just said earlier. I'm just trying to say, like, out of all the characters, he's not a leader, and it's because of that. And a lot of people are very emotional about Zakan. They really like the character. I really like him. He's, like, basically the equivalent of how I feel right now after Sarfang died. I miss the guy. I'm really sad that he's gone. And like Zakan, a lot of his character development was like, I protected Sarfang. I saved him. I had to keep him safe, and I failed at that. And
at the same time, though, Zakan helped save the Horde too.
Yeah, Zakan's a hero in the Horde. In the very much same respect as Gammon or Rexxar. I mean, Rexxar's way up there, though, because, he's Rexxar. But with the fact that Rokon is the leader of the trolls, the Darkspear trolls, rather, I love that, because he went from a scout of the Horde that was tagging along with Rexxar and Chen, which I thought was really cool. He was obviously one of the most notable Darkspear trolls, of course. because you only really had Vol'jin, Rokan, Bwemba, Volrath, as you just said. You know, you don't have many characters in the Darkspear, which is why I like Zakan, because, you know, he's a new character. He's a new Darkspear, and they're fleshing him out. He reminds me very much of Zani from the Starting Zone, honestly. He was also a shaman who liked using lightning
I felt
bolts.
so bad for that guy.
Rip Zani, guys. He's secretly Zakan's younger or older
Hey, maybe
brother.
he'll be in Shadowlands.
Hey, maybe. I would love Zakan and Zani just hanging out. Actually, I don't think of his name. Is his name Zani? I don't know.
I think it
Zuni.
was. Zuni.
Zuni.
Yeah.
I was close. But I think that, one, Rokan needs a new model. He needs an updated OG, fantastic-looking leader of the Darkspear model that is befitting of him. Same with Gazlo, who's in a very similar position that, you know, Rokan is. I think that Rokan, like, as you said, he'll get a little bit of the pieces in the book. My biggest worry, and this is something that they actually kind of, like, have in the excerpt, is Zakan, he's given Talanji the, I'm in love with you eyes. And I get it. Zakan's younger than Rokan is, and some people think that Rokan's like in his 80s or something because of his hair in Warcraft 3 or something. Again, Warcraft 3, they've been changing Rokan up. He has a much younger sounding voice. He looks a lot younger right now. I really hope Rokan isn't some old dude, because that would be really weird if Talanji and Rokan ever were a thing, which was kind of hinted at in the expansion.
I thought it was like heavily after the expansion, to be honest.
But you got Zakan giving Talanji the I like you eyes, and the fact that they're gonna be alone together in this journey is worrisome in me, because I really like Rokan and Talanji. Is it gonna tear me apart if they end up together? Probably not. I don't care that much about a ship. Ships are, you know, my lowest concern when it comes to, you know, character interactions. They're great, but I think sometimes people take them a little too far. But in the case of Rokan, I think that he might get done a little dirty, but I do think that he'll have a role within the council, especially if he becomes like a mentor towards Zakan, which was kind of hinted at because, like, you know, Zakan was trying to reinsure Rokan a little bit.
So, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about for today?
I had something a while ago. I think I talked about Vol'jin. I think I talked about, you know, one thing I kind of hope that happens, is such a minor little thing, is I hope that Rexar is in the book as a cameo. That's all I hope for.
G Firepaw, man, let's get it. G Firepaw Rexar crossover.
Rexar and G Firepaw drinking Shen's beer that Rexar hates. That'd be great. I think that's it, though, for me.
Did you have anything else, Kai?
Nah, I think I'm good.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Skull, Jakai.
Yo.
I actually can't wait for this book. It comes out in July 11th, I think.
Something like that.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the little breadcrumbs it'll give us into the next expansion. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully we'll have more Campfire soon. I know this has been 4 months since the last one we did, but this is one we really wanted to do. And I can't thank these guys enough for being on again. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you in 4 months.
Ciao.